Hello and welcome to a new episode of Lubloumina Talks. Today we are in the beautiful city of Dubai and joining me is Mr. Oliver Sa'id, the CEO of Endevio. Hello Oliver.
Hello Hamza.
Before we start the interview, I'd like you to tell our viewers a little bit about Malta, its heritage, any information, because we've heard a lot about Malta, but we'd like you to tell us and our viewers more about it.
So you're asking me to recount 7,000 years of history in 2 minutes? Okay, it's going to be interesting. Okay, so Malta is a country in Europe. It is very close to Italy. It's about 80 kilometers away from Italy. It is a bit of a fusion culture in that the ancestry is Arab. The management, education, contracts, that's all English because Malta was also English it was a British colony for about 260 years. But the reality then, the lifestyle is Italian because we are so close to Italy. It is consistently one of the fastest growing economies in Europe. Very dynamic, very advanced, very productive.
Yeah, you've summarized it very well. Thank you. So can you tell us more about the Malta PR program? It's becoming very popular today. We used to see Portugal, Greece, Hungary, but now we're hearing a lot about Malta. Can you tell us about the process, the timeline, a little bit about the procedures?
Okay, so the Malta PR, the advantage why people are looking for it increasingly is first and foremost, by its name, it is permanent residence, which means there is no renewal. It's not 2 years, it's not 5 years, it's not 10 years, it's for life. It's for life for the applicant, it's for life for the partner or spouse, it's for life for the children. Eventually, the children grow up, they can bring in their spouses or their partners, and then they can bring in their children, which is the grandchildren of the applicants. So the fact that it's for life, that is a major advantage. So from start to finish, realistically, the program takes about a year, okay? And the process is basically that a person applies, the due diligence is done first, and the bulk of the payment comes after approval. Unlike other programs where first you have to invest and then they tell you whether you have been approved or not, because Malta is quite particular on the, let's call it, the members of the club. Because Malta, keep in mind that Malta is with the Mercedes, the PR program is like the Mercedes BMW of the programs, whereas obviously the citizenship is the Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Bentley of the programs. So Malta is a bit sensitive on who to allow. So basically the way it works is a person starts the process, provides the documentation, provides some of the costs and the fees, but the bulk is always post-approval.
Yesterday I was watching the webinar and you spoke a lot about the heritage of Malta. And honestly, what I understood, there's a lot of fusion in it. Can you tell our viewers more about the heritage of Malta? How you have a fusion of Arab, Italian, French?
Yeah, because Malta is situated in the Mediterranean and because the geographical location is roughly right in the middle of the Mediterranean, what has happened is throughout the history, it has been taken over by many other civilizations. So what has happened is you have this fusion, as I rightly said. First and foremost, if you go back, you will see the Arab influence. So jekk jiena ħankellimkom bil-Malti, intkom ħatifmuni, and this is Maltese.
I understood you completely.
So you have a situation where the grammar is 100% Arabic, the vocabulary is about 50-60% Arabic. But effectively what you get is you get a language which sounds like Arabic, but is actually written in Roman characters. So this is where the fusion comes in. The British, as you rightly said, has had a massive influence. And this is basically the way things are done, the punctuality, the structure, the seriousness of how things we have inherited from the British. Then the reality is that the lifestyle post-working hours is very Italian. So the dining al fresco, outside, enjoying the Mediterranean climate, this is very Italian. The food is again a fusion.
Yeah.
So you get typical dishes which come from the Arab time, like haroof and other things, and we call it actually haroof. Then you have the pasta, we call it agine, which is Italian. And then you get all the other mix and matches from all the other cuisines, even from Portugal, from other places. So it is a fusion culture. You have many nationalities living in the country, and that is what makes it comfortable for people to assimilate into it quite quickly.
The way you expressed Malta and its heritage and how beautiful it is, now I consider like my next destination should be Malta. If we go back to the PR program, How long is the timeline of application for processing the permanent residency for our applicants?
If I had to split that year into sections, I think realistically you need 3 months for the collection of documentation. And the reason why it takes 3 months, and this might come as surprising, is because, as I said, Malta is quite particular as to the typology of clients that it wants to accept. I wouldn't go as calling it difficult. I would go as say it is very thorough.
Yeah.
Okay? Then realistically, at the moment, you have 6 months of processing time. At one point, it was 3 months, but there is a significant backlog because of what has happened, because of the popularity of the program. And then you have the final 3 months to finish everything. So the process is really 3-6-3. That is how I would split it.
Well, we usually say it's a year, just
Yes.
in case some things occur.
Approximately a year is a safe bet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Malta is considered the top 5 countries in the world, one of the top 5 countries in the world. And they're very, I'm sure they have a very strict due diligence. Can you explain to our viewers the process of due diligence, how the files are going through?
So basically, the due diligence, which, as you rightly said, is very strict, is really, truly, it's actually 2 questions, believe it or not, asked in a variety of ways. The first question is, who is the applicant? Where were they born? Who are their friends? Where did they go to school? What are their accomplishments? What are the boards of directors that person was in? What are their social network? What is the family background, and so on and so forth. So basically here, they're judging moral character, okay? The second question, which is the bulk of the questions, is what is known as source of wealth. How did this person come to make their money? And Malta is very sensitive to ensure that it accepts clean applicants. As we always say on both programs, the program's reputation is as good as the last person you let into the club. If you allow one bad person to come into the club, you have ruined the reputation of all the other members who have passed through that process. So, as I said earlier, I wouldn't call it difficult. Well, first and foremost, if a person has a poor reputation or the source of wealth is showing questionable sources, then quite honestly, Malta is not for them, okay? But beyond that, the reality is it is not difficult per se. Yes, it is exhaustive. Yes, you have to be ready with the paperwork, but it is thorough. But it's only fair because then, as you rightly said, you are ultimately ending up with indefinitely, and this is not me who says it because I might be biased, you are ending up with the most powerful PR program. And even though we're not discussing it today, for those who might be interested, there's the citizenship program, which is the most powerful citizenship program in the world. So obviously, if you are at that level, it is expected that you are going to be asked more questions.
And you're saying it's the most powerful PR program in the world, and yet it's affordable.
Yes, because the way, I'll tell you the reason why. You need to understand it from the Malta perspective. Malta, as I hinted earlier, continues to be the fastest growing economy in Europe. And Malta has, on the ground, negative unemployment. So the reality on the ground is negative. So what you get is you get a country who basically wants to attract talent. It's not about the money. The money is important, but it is not primary. So the reason why it continues to be that powerful is because ultimately it's not a question that you are getting a card and basically it can be anything. You are actually going to be in a position to live in a country where you have economic prosperity. So you can send your children to school. The education is going to be done in English. You can have the top medical care. Automatically, the employers are going to be run after you graduate to actually offer you a job. Now we are in a situation, I know it's hilarious, it sounds good and bad. It's good from the employment point of view, bad from the employer point of view. But now the employers are actually looking at going to high school to familiarize themselves with the students so that when they graduate, they can employ them that quickly because the demand is so much. So it is not just about the travel rights. It is also about the fact that many people consider something called Plan B, that for them they say, listen, yes, I want to have this, but at the same time, if I'm going to come to use it, I want to be sure that I can go and live in a country which makes sense. There are many programs around the world, but some of them, realistically, beyond travel, you won't consider actually going to live there because it's not practically feasible to do so.
Yeah, Oliver, we had a previous talk, and we were talking about how RBI and CBI are not Plan B. They're no longer Plan B. Now they're actually part of Plan A. They're part of. Some people invest in real estate. Some people buy gold. Now having a second citizenship or having a residency by investment is Plan A considered. And going to that, what would be the benefits in investing in Malta PR rather than investing in a different program or a different country?
So, look, first and foremost, let's look at from the travel rights perspective. The reality is whether it is one country within Schengen or another country within Schengen, from a travel perspective, they are similar. I wouldn't call them identical, but they are similar. Obviously, a Schengen is Schengen, but then what you get is when you get residency in specific countries which are known to be a little bit more thorough, then automatically you gain the right to travel into other countries which are not necessarily Schengen. So ironically, when you put Malta PR plus the citizenship, say a passport of another country, you end up with collectively far higher amount of countries that you can travel to. But as you rightly said, some people now consider it as Plan A and not Plan B, especially when it comes to children. The reality is when you look at the top countries which historically have had a net inward migration, without exception, they tend to be English speaking. So whether it's Australia, New Zealand, United States, United Kingdom, even in Asia, countries which have a strong influence in English like Singapore, or places where the English is predominantly the language spoken, we are in Dubai. Take Dubai, okay? So Dubai, what is the language people speak? They speak English.
Yeah.
So Malta has the advantage. Malta and Ireland are the only two countries in the European Union which have English as the native language. Malta and Ireland, I don't want to talk too much about Ireland, but it's easier to assimilate. Malta and Ireland continue to be the fastest growing economies in Europe. There is a reason for that, because the education system, the structuring system, the taxation, the familiarity, the ease of doing business is such that makes it easy for people to consider it as Plan A. So if they want to send kids to Malta University, top 3% worldwide, where automatically you are secure in the knowledge that people have a future. The country, again, I'm saying a lot of things in this day and age of Google, everybody can verify. Malta is one of the safest countries in the world.
Yeah.
But then you have the advantage, sorry, against my Irish friends, please don't hate me for this, that we have a much better climate because we're in the Mediterranean, okay? That is the reason why, and earlier you hinted as to why it's becoming popular. I would say the reason predominantly why it's becoming popular, the fact is that it's permanent for life for the applicant, children, and eventually the grandchildren. That is a major one, while still being very affordable because people are not forced to buy real estate in the beginning. In the beginning, they can just start by renting out.
And you don't have to visit as often. Like I know other PR programs, you have to go to the country very often. In Malta, you don't have to do that.
Correct, because Malta believes that if you try to impose something, it is going to backfire. So we want people to come into the country because they want to come. You are required to visit the country once every 5 years, purely so that you can take a new set of biometrics.
Yeah.
Okay. So as my colleagues jokingly say, because they know me from a very long time when I had very long hair, obviously every 5 years, your face, your features are going to change. So effectively, they just want fresh biometrics. So the residency card, not the permanent certificate, because the certificate is for life.
Yeah.
So the residency cards can be issued with the latest biometrics.
So, Oliver, every employee at Lubloumina has a heartfelt story pertaining to our clients. We would like to hear, you processed, mashallah, a lot of files. We'd like to hear a heartfelt story of a client that you processed their file.
So yeah, we've processed literally hundreds, probably of even more than 1,000 files. So it's very difficult for me to pinpoint, but I can tell you one which was very recent because and the reason why it's a bit heartfelt because the wife burst out crying during the call that Ayub, one of my colleagues, contacted them. So this was a bit of a tough file. And the family come from a North African country, and due diligence was very exhaustive because it was perceived as slightly higher risk. And they really wanted to move permanently to Malta. This was not plan B. This is plan A, 100% plan A. The future for the daughter was really a given. They have friends in Malta. And they visited under a Schengen visa. And they fell in love. They felt at home. So you have a situation where the daughter has been accepted for school. Everything is ready. They've chosen the house, but they did not have it. And we were very happy. They literally, when we called them, because there was nothing wrong with the file. The problem, what happened was, because of the popularity, the backlog became very significant with the authorities. So usually it took 3 months, and all of a sudden it took 6 months. They took it that there is something is wrong with their file. There was nothing wrong with the file. And she burst out crying. Literally, she was like sobbing at the back of the on the phone, and I was like happy but consoling her, and she was so yeah. There are instances where people's lives are changed, where all of a sudden we have people say, you know what, I can actually just go to the airport and travel. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this. I can actually stay in a country which is Europe. I can stay there. I don't even have to spend 90 days. I can stay there 180.
Yeah.
And for the Arabs, you know, the first client we had from the Gulf, which was way back in 2014, he came and I picked him up at the airport and we went to a restaurant. And he said, listen, I don't want to fine dining. This guy is very rich. He said, I don't want to fine dining. I've had enough fine dining for a life. I just want to try the local cuisine. So I went to this place, which is quite local. So we went in, and the guy, he asked me, he said, Kem edin? Atlu edin erba. And usually the menu is on the wall. And I said, listen, can you give me a minute? So Andek menu? He said, and the menu. So and the guy goes, what are you talking about? This is Maltese. I'm gonna put Maltese on my CV.
Yeah.
And for them it was like a love affair. And he said, I can't believe it that I'm actually in a European Union country, but you are talking effectively a dialect of Arabic.
You are.
So yeah, so it's quite easy, ironically, for us to sell the country as long as people visit. The irony is that most people have actually seen Malta many times because Malta is one of the most popular studios for Hollywood.
Wow.
Because the background. So movies like Gladiator 1, now we just finished shooting Gladiator 2. Even the Colosseum, that's actually built in Malta.
Oh, wow.
The backgrounds and everything, all of that is actually Malta. Troy, by the Sea, The Count of Monte Cristo, season 1 and a lot of season 2 of the Game of Thrones.
These are all shot in Malta?
All in Malta. This is all Malta. Okay? So a lot of people have actually seen Malta. They're not knowing that it's Malta, but it's actually in Malta.
I didn't know until you said something about it.
You can find it again on YouTube. You'll see it all.
Finally, Oliver, I've noticed that the language, I'm so surprised, honestly. The Maltese language, I can put on my CV now. I speak Maltese.
As I told you, huh?
Yeah, I speak Maltese. Yeah. So it's Arabic and Italian, Arabic and...
It's a fusion. So the grammar is 100% Arabic.
Yeah.
The grammar is 100%. So yeah, let's
try something.
Let's try. For example, your colleague here behind the camera is holding a book, right?
Yeah.
So let's say book. Book is ktib, right? So let's start conjugating. So jena ktibt, inti ktibt, hija kitbet, huwa kiteb, aħna ktibna, huma kitbu. This is 100% Maltese.
Wow.
So the grammar is 100% Arabic, how it's conjugated. The vocabulary, anything which is old, would be Arabic. So for example, I'm seeing a table, so that's Meida. Okay, I'm seeing the light, that's Dawl. So that's anything which is predating, which existed pre-800 AD, would be Arabic. But anything which is new, so for example, camera is camera. So now it's English.
Yeah.
Say...
a car.
A car would be, I was going to tell you sayara in Arabic because I'm mixing languages. It would be carrozza because it's closer to the carrozza, which is the original carriage of the horses in Italian.
Yes.
So there the influence is Italian. So you get this fusion culture of vocabulary between Arabic, English, Italian, and French, all mixed together with a basis, with 100 bases of 100% grammar Arabic, and then put Roman characters just so that the fusion, the cocktail, and the recipe is like interesting.
I'm so impressed, honestly, not by the program by itself. I'm impressed by the program, by you, by Malta itself. Definitely, it's going to be on the bucket list and next place to travel to.
We say in Maltese, we don't say inshallah, we say yakalla irit. If God wants, yakalla irit.
In Allah Rad in Arabic.
Yes, and even though Malta is predominantly Catholic, there is obviously a significant population part which is Muslim, but God is actually referred to as Allah.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Oliver, for your
Thank you so
time.
much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Blumina Talks, all the way from Dubai. See you next time. Bye-bye.
حكي بلومينا.